2016 Silverados, same 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 V8. Same customer family, same driveway, same fuel station. They both filled up at every week. One truck ran full synthetic Dexos, one for 100,000 miles. The other ran high mileage oil starting around 80,000 miles. Same mechanic, meaning me, doing every single oil change and every inspection along the way. I did not expect the difference between these two trucks to be this obvious by the time we hit six figures on the odometer. I'm going to walk you through exactly what I found, tear down photos and all, because this is the kind of real-world data you will not get from an oil company's marketing page. This started with two brothers, twins actually, which made the whole thing feel like an accident of fate. Back in 2016, they bought matching Silverado LT crew cabs off the same dealer lot within a month of each other, both with the 5.3-liter V8. One brother is meticulous to a fault. He wanted full synthetic Dexos, won every single interval, no exceptions, no shortcuts. The other brother is more of a set-it-and-forget-it guy. Around 78,000 miles, I brought up high mileage oil to him, specifically because his truck had started weeping a little oil around the front cover, and I wanted to see if a high mileage formulation could slow that down before we talked about a more invasive fix. He agreed, and from that point on, his truck ran a high mileage synthetic blend while his brother's truck stayed on straight Dexos, one full synthetic. I served both trucks for the next 6 years. That is not a lab test with instrumentation and control variables. It is real ownership, real weather, real towing, real short trips to the hardware store mixed with real highway hauls. And that is exactly why the results matter. Let's talk about what these two oils are actually built to do, because most people, including a lot of guys who consider themselves gearheads, think high mileage oil is just synthetic oil with a fancier label slapped on the bottle. It is not. Full synthetic Dexos 1, which is what GM specs from the factory for the 5.3-liter Ecotec 3, is engineered around consistent film strength, tight viscosity control across temperature swings, and clean-burning additive packages that resist deposit formation. It is built for an engine that is still tight, with seals doing their job the way they were designed to. High mileage oil is a completely different philosophy. It is loaded with seal conditioners, typically phosphate esters and other elastomer softeners, designed to swell and rehydrate rubber seals that have hardened and shrunk with age. It also carries a heavier detergent package aimed at sludge control and a thicker overall film to reduce seepage through microscopic gaps that develop as an engine ages. The trade-off is that high-mileage oil generally does not hold its viscosity as long under extreme heat, and it is not chasing the same fuel economy numbers that a full synthetic Dexos 1 formulation is chasing. One oil is playing defense on an aging engine. The other is playing offense on a healthy one. Neither is universally better. It depends entirely on what problem you are solving. That is the whole premise of this comparison, because these two trucks let that philosophy play out in real time on identical hardware. Here's what I documented. Both trucks were four-wheel drive crew cabs with the same 3.42 rear axle and the same tow package. Both were used regularly for hauling landscaping trailers on weekends. Mileage accumulation stayed within about 4,000 miles of each other the entire time I tracked them, which is close enough for a fair comparison. Truck 1, full synthetic Dexos 1 the whole way, every interval right around 7,500 miles per the oil life monitor, never pushed past 8,000. Truck 2, Dexos 1 full synthetic until 78,000 miles, then switched to a high mileage synthetic blend from that point to 100,000, with intervals tightened to about 5,500 miles once we made the switch, since high mileage formulations tend to break down their detergent package a little faster under sustained heat. At 100,000 miles, I pulled valve covers on both trucks during unrelated service work. Truck 1 for a knock sensor replacement, Truck 2 for a valve cover gasket inspection since he'd mentioned a very faint tick. What I saw lined up almost exactly with what the additive chemistry would predict. Truck 1, the full synthetic truck, had noticeably cleaner internals. Very light varnish on the valve train, rocker arms showing normal wear with no sludge buildup anywhere I could see. This is a truck that had never shown a drop of oil on the driveway in 6 years. Truck 2, the high-mileage truck, actually looked a little different in an interesting way. There was slightly more deposit buildup than Truck 1, which tracks with high-mileage oil's less aggressive detergent chemistry compared to full synthetic. But the front cover seal and the rear main seal, both of which had been seeping slightly before the switch at 78,000 miles, had genuinely tightened up. That weeping I'd noted in my service records before the switch was gone by around 85,000 miles and never came back. That is the seal conditioner package doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It did not fix a mechanical problem. It rehydrated seals that had started to shrink with age, and it worked. Now, here's the part that surprised me even after 20 plus years of doing this. Oil consumption between changes. Truck 1, the full synthetic truck, consistently used somewhere between a half quart and 1 quart between 7,500 mile intervals, which is completely normal for a DFM-equipped 5.3 liter. These engines cycle cylinders on and off constantly through dynamic fuel management, and that lifter activity does contribute to slightly elevated consumption compared to an engine running all 8 cylinders all the time. Truck 2, before the switch to high mileage oil, was tracking almost identically, sometimes a little worse because of that seal seepage I mentioned. After the switch, oil consumption on Truck 2 actually dropped to less than a half quart per interval and stayed there. The seal conditioning did not just stop external leaking, it improved internal consumption too, which is consistent with what these formulations are designed to do on an engine that has some age and mileage on it. If you're getting something out of this breakdown, go ahead and hit subscribe now, because I've got more real ownership comparisons like this coming. Not lab tests, not sponsored content, just what I actually see on my lift every week. All right, back to these two trucks. Let's talk cost, because this is where the decision actually gets made for most people, not in a lab, but on a receipt. Full synthetic Dexos. One oil changes on these trucks run me right around $70 to $85 in parts, depending on the filter and whether the customer wants the AC Delco Dexos 1 licensed oil or an equivalent from Mobil 1 or Pennzoil Platinum, both of which carry the Dexos 1 Generation 2 or Generation 3 license. High mileage synthetic blend oil changes came in a little cheaper per service, closer to $60 to $70, but with tighter intervals on Truck 2 after the switch, the two trucks ended up costing almost the same amount over the same span of miles. Truck 1, full synthetic the entire time, spent about $1,100 on oil service across 100,000 miles. Truck 2 spent close to that as well once you factor in the shorter intervals after the switch, plus one valve cover gasket I ended up replacing anyway, around 92,000 miles. Not because the high mileage oil failed to do its job, but because a physical gasket had simply reached the end of its service life and no additive package was going to hold that back forever. That gasket ran him about $240 installed, so in raw dollars this was close to a wash. Where it was not close was engine cleanliness and long-term deposit control. If I'm being straight with you, Truck 1, the one that ran full synthetic Dexos 1 from day one and never switched, is the healthier engine at 100,000 miles. Cleaner internals, no seal issues to begin with because the seals never had a chance to age past their tolerance before service intervals kept the engine in good shape, and oil analysis I ran at 95,000 miles showed lower wear metal counts, meaning less iron and aluminum suspended in the oil, which points to less internal friction over the truck's life. But I want to be very clear about something because I don't want you walking away from this thinking high mileage oil is inferior Truck 2 had a real problem starting around 78,000 miles. That front cover and rear main seepage was documented, it was visible, and it was getting worse. The switch to high-mileage oil solved that problem without a single wrench turning on the seals themselves. That is not a small thing. A rear main seal replacement on this engine, if it had progressed to where I had to pull the transmission to fix it properly, would have run this guy $1,500 or more in labor alone. Instead, an oil switch handled it. That is high-mileage oil doing exactly the job it was engineered to do on exactly the kind of engine it was engineered to do it on. So here is my actual takeaway after running these two trucks side by side for 6 years and 100,000 miles each. If your Silverado's engine is healthy, seals are tight, no seepage, no consumption issues, stick with full synthetic Dexos, one for the life of the truck. It keeps deposits down, keeps wear metals low, and there is no reason to introduce a heavier additive package your engine does not need. But the moment you start seeing a spot on the driveway, a faint burning smell after a long highway run, or oil consumption creeping up past what's normal for a DFM engine, don't wait around hoping it fixes itself. Switch to a genuine high-mileage full synthetic, something that actually carries seal conditioning chemistry and not just a high-mileage label slapped on a standard formulation, and tighten your interval to around 5,000 to 6,000 miles instead of stretching it out. On this truck, that decision bought this brother years of extra service life on seals that would have otherwise needed a shop visit costing more than a decade of oil changes combined. Two brothers, two identical trucks, two completely different oil strategies, and both trucks are still on the road today doing exactly what they were bought to do. That's the real test. Not a dyno, not a lab, just two engines living real lives and telling you the truth about what's happening inside them. If this kind of real ownership data is useful to you, subscribe, because I track vehicles like this constantly, and I'll keep bringing you what I actually find, not what an oil bottle promises. Drive safe, take care of your truck, and it'll take care of you.